All right. Again, thank you everyone for joining the webinar this morning or afternoon, wherever you are. Today we're going to talk about ChatGPT, how jewelers can use ChatGPT to benefit their jewelry store. We host webinars a couple times a month. I do webinars for The Edge once a month, and we're starting to do these new series of webinars hosted by our company, GemFind Digital Solutions. And like to always provide valuable information as much as we can about things that we've learned about digital marketing and web design. And ChatGPT has been a pretty popular topic. It's one of the fastest growing apps out there. So that's why we wanted to cover that today, because there's a lot of uses that we could potentially incorporate into your your arsenal, your tool belt. And we've got myself, Anthony. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing here at GemFind. Been at GemFind for over 15 years. We've got Kyle Morris, Digital Marketing Manager, and Daniel Rodriguez. We're each going to kind of talk about different sections about ChatGPT. I'm going to cover like what is ChatGPT, some stats, how jewelers can adopt it, at least some ideas there. Kyle's going to talk about different versions of ChatGPT. We'll talk about the API, give a live demo. And Daniel will cover some of the SEO implications. We'll also talk about Google and how AI content is valued by Google. We'll talk about some email content. And then Daniel will give some live examples as well. We'll open it up for a Q&A at the end. If you do have any questions in the meantime, feel free to go ahead and type them in the Q&A, and we'll see if we can get to questions throughout. You can either use a chat or the Q&A, whatever's preferable for you in the Zoom panel. Again, Anthony Archiga, Kyle, Daniel, all here. If you want to say hello, Kyle and Daniel.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you.
If you're not familiar with GemFind, we've been in this industry for over 20 years. We specialize in all things digital, helping jewelers create, and really, our goal is to partner with you to be a growth partner, help you build a website that converts and that has the best user experience, along with a digital marketing strategy built into the websites that we create. And so our goal is really to dial in your SEO and your PPC strategy and really stay up on the pulse on everything that's helping jewelers succeed today and help you scale your business online. So again, we're going to talk about ChatGPT. What is ChatGPT? It's a sibling model to Instruct GPT, which is trained to follow an instruction in a prompt and provide a detailed response. And if you're unfamiliar with what GPT stands for, it's generative pre-trained transformer. So, OpenAI created ChatGPT. OpenAI also created DALL-E, an image generation AI. And it was co-founded by Elon Musk and is based out of San Francisco, in the Mission District in San Francisco. And it was number of users. A couple of stats here is there's 100 million users as of January 2023. There's 25 million visitors. So this is all based on a lot of January numbers. 619 million in January, jumped to 1 billion in February, 1.6 billion in March. So it's growing like crazy. And I'll give a little bit more stats here. ChatGPT, just so a little background about it, it's completely free to use during its research preview. ChatGPT Plus has been recently launched at a pilot subscription price of $20 a month, and Kyle will talk a little bit more about the different versions of ChatGPT and kind of go over why it's important to use ChatGPT and pay for it, because you have a different version of it nowadays. ChatGPT, once monetized, is predicted to earn a revenue of 200 million by the end of 2023 and $1 billion by the end of 2024. Microsoft has already invested $1 billion and confirmed an additional investment of $10 billion in OpenAI. So This is some of the interesting facts. ChatGPT crossed 1 million users in 5 days of launch and set the record for the fastest growing platform by gaining 100 million users by January. So just a crazy amount of adoption. Reached, again, 1 billion visits in February, 1.6 billion visits in March. ChatGPT or GPT-4 has shown sparks of AGI, which means artificial general intelligence, aka human level intelligence. It scored in the 90th percentile of several hard human examinations like the bar exam and international biology and math Olympiads. So very interesting how it's, and essentially what's happening with ChatGPT, it's learning as humans are inputting information. So it keeps adding to the knowledge base and keeps figuring out equations over time based on how people are inputting information. Another pretty interesting, a couple interesting things that I wanted to point out, or at least compare the growth to other platforms out there, because some of these platforms like Facebook that everyone knows, Instagram, Spotify, look at the difference to the first million users. ChatGPT 5 days, Facebook 10 months, Instagram 2 months, Spotify 5 months, Netflix 3.5 years, ChatGPT 5 days in comparison. So crazy amount of adoption. Very interesting how it's kind of just taken the whole industry by storm. Couple ideas about how jewelers can adopt ChatGPT. And these are things that we've started to use ChatGPT for. One is buyer personas. And so essentially the best way to typically do digital marketing and set yourself up for success is by creating buyer personas, people that represent a typical buyer for your business, your jewelry store. So like essentially a buyer persona will tell you that, this person, this typical person that buys from you is a female, age 25 to 35, drives a specific type of car. They spend time on Instagram or whatever the platform is, and whatever the age range is. It could be, 55 to 65-year-old males that spend time on Facebook and listen to sports radio. But what buyer personas do, it allows you to know who you're speaking to, so you can create content specific to those buyer personas. And ChatGPT can actually help you create that. It used to be a pretty big process to actually create buyer personas, but ChatGPT can use artificial intelligence to at least give you a pretty good guideline, get you 80% there. So that's a great way to use it. Style guides. I know, Kyle, you talked about this of, ultimately give a style guide of how you want your content written, because ChatGPT can generate a lot of content for you, but if it's not in the style of your writing or your voice, then it might not really, be as effective. So style guides are really important to create, so you can instruct ChatGPT to write content for you in your voice. Excuse me. Also, email content is a great way to use ChatGPT. I know even a couple of my clients talked about using ChatGPT for generating email content. So you can create, email sequences, you can create, content for whatever is necessary. You just instruct ChatGPT. And again, Kyle and Daniel will give some actual live examples, live demos of ChatGPT, so you can kind of see how you're going to input information into it to get the right information out. Ebook content could be super valuable. All these things could be really great for jewelry stores because, again, these things took a lot of time to create. You have to typically pay a writer to write, pages of content. Ebooks are great to have as a lead magnet to get people to enter into your email funnel. So ebooks are a great way to use ChatGPT because it can generate, again, a significant amount of content. Website content, we use it for for certain types of scenarios. You can use it to write product descriptions. That's a big, hole in the industry. A lot of jewelers struggle with writing good product descriptions. You can have ChatGPT basically parse information in order to write a proper description for your your products. Obviously SEO content, ad copy, blogs, chat bots. You can have it write actual like responses to questions that people type in on your website. Great way to actually start incorporating marketing automation tactics into your whole marketing arsenal. Social media topic calendars, we've done that before, where like you ask ChatGPT to create a social media calendar based on, this is a jewelry store that specializes in engagement rings, and it'll actually give you a full calendar of topics to write. Same with marketing calendars. It can help you at least give you a guideline to follow. And so a lot of great ways to adopt ChatGPT for jewelers. So I'm going to pass this over to Kyle. And Kyle, I'll just go ahead and control the screen, but I think you're going to talk about the different versions of ChatGPT.
Yeah. You want me to share my screen?
Whatever your preference is.
I'll share my screen just so I can share a little bit of info when we kind of go to live demos here. So I will share now. Awesome. Just one sec. All right, awesome. So what we're going to be discussing is the different versions of ChatGPT. So essentially, just to give a little overview of it, so ChatGPT essentially is a front end for the GPT 3.5 or GPT-4. So essentially what that means, a front end is a way for someone to interact with the AI. So the reason why I say that it is a front end is on the next slide, we'll also talk about the API, which is a way that developers are actually able to connect to it as well to create awesome applications. But to kind of start things off, I'll kind of discuss about the different versions. So in ChatGPT, there are two different options you have of the models of GPT. So you have the free version, which is GPT 3.5. So if you signed up right now, signed up for a free account, by default, you're using ChatGPT 3.5. But if you sign up for the paid version, I know Anthony mentioned it earlier that there's a paid version, it gives you access to GPT-4. So the GPT-4 access through ChatGPT costs about $20 a month. But with that being said, this is the newest model they currently have. So there are a couple differences. So I kind of want to go over what these are. So first of the difference is going to be the usages. GPT 3.5, the free version, you can do as much as you want. It's unlimited. But if you sign up for the paid version, you have access to that GPT-4, but you only get 25 messages every 3 hours. To be totally honest, 25 messages every 3 hours for the majority of y'all will be plenty. But it does have a limit because it still is brand new. They're still working out, how to improve it and things like that. The full version will be released just like the 3.5 at some point. They haven't said when yet. Some differences between the two models as well is going to be their performance and their speed. So the GPT 3.5 is much faster. So when you ask it a question, the response is almost instant, but it is slightly less accurate than the GPT-4 is. So GPT-4 is still as fast, don't get me wrong. It's just not instant. You might wait like a second or 2 seconds, but it is slower than the 3.5. Let me try to go to the next page here. The other difference between the two is going to be their knowledge and expertise. So essentially, I know Anthony had a little dot about this as well, but the GPT 3.5 barely passed the bar exam when they ran it for that specific test, while GPT-4 passed it in the top 10%. So when you actually play around with these two different tools, you'll notice there is a major difference in the intelligence from 3.5 to 4. So it's way more human-like. The answers are always much, much closer to what you're looking for. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, 3.5 still is great. It can still do most of the things you're looking for it to do, but GPT-4, it's much better. One of the things to keep in mind with both models is how much knowledge they have and what date that knowledge goes up to. So for the free version, the GPT 3.5, it only has knowledge up to 2021. So if you're going to ask it about current events, you're going to ask about anything very recent, it will have no knowledge about it, and it'll just do its best to kind of make something up or guess, or sometimes it'll even tell you it doesn't know. GPT-4, on the other hand, it does use that same database up to 2021, but it also does have some newer information. So it doesn't have everything all the way through 2023 here to where we currently are, but it has more data between those dates. So if you ask about some things, during 2022 or 2023, it might get some stuff, other stuff it might not know. But as Anthony mentioned, the more that people are using these tools, the more data it is building up, and it's getting more and more accurate and knowledgeable. One thing to keep in mind, neither of these have access to the internet themselves. So you can't actually instruct it to go view your website and pull information from it or something like that. But if you do need to give information from a website, you can always copy that data from that page and paste it directly into the tool, and it can use that information. But one thing to keep in mind, ChatGPT is going to be releasing plugins fairly soon. So that's essentially like, as you guys probably know with Shopify, you can have plugins added on for extra, functionality. They're going to be adding some that allow you to go on the internet or just do other things a little bit better. So one thing I did want to just briefly discuss was the accuracy and what are called hallucinations of AI. So as I mentioned, they're not always going to be perfect. The way I tell everyone, they usually get you about 80 to 90% of the way there, no matter what you're kind of looking for. So if you're looking for a blog, it'll get you 80, 90% of the way there. You probably need to make a couple of tweaks yourself because, again, it's not 100% accurate. The database isn't all the way up to current date. And also, it does have an issue with, and all AIs are going to have this issue at this point. They have a thing called hallucinations. So hallucinations aren't how humans have hallucinations. They think they see things. Instead, what it is essentially they have very high confidence in incorrect answers. So you will notice this time to time. I will say GPT-4, a lot less than you'll see with 3.5, but it'll be super confident in its answer. No matter which way you try to ask it slightly different, it has a high confidence in an incorrect answer. With that being said, the way that they are improving this and trying to get rid of some of those hallucinations, when you do use ChatGPT, there is a way to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down on that output there, and that'll actually help it get a little bit better of, was this output correct? Was it incorrect? And that's how it's continually improving as well. So again, just always verify the content is good and accurate before throwing it on your website or putting stuff out there. Just double check things. So the ChatGPT API. So as I mentioned before, ChatGPT is just the user interface for anyone to go in and use. The API is essentially an easy way for developers to connect directly to the AI itself. So currently, what you can do with this API is awesome. You can build tons and tons of different tools. There are tons of companies doing it. I've even personally built some tools using the API. You don't even have to have a ton of knowledge. To be totally honest, my programming knowledge is pretty average. Took classes in college. I do it for fun every once in a while, but I was able to build tools such as one that writes summaries of my Zoom calls for me. One that generates landing pages based on locations and keywords. And there's a whole variety of different things you can build with it. But just like ChatGPT, there are different APIs you can connect to and different versions. So currently 3.5, similar to the GPT, the ChatGPT, is everyone has access to it. But GPT-4 currently is in what's called beta, so only a limited number of people have access to it. You can join and kind of get on that waiting list for it if you want your developer to use the newest version. So I'm currently on that waiting list. I've been on the waiting list for like 2 or 3 weeks at this point, haven't heard anything. So I don't know how many more people they are actually letting into that beta. And they also have other tools that aren't specifically GPT. They have things like Whisper, where it does audio to text. And then also, like Anthony mentioned, they have Dolly, which is also an AI image generator. So there's a whole bunch of different things that you can do with the API. So if you want to get any sort of tool built, they can use it. And the cost to use the API is super, super, super cheap. So essentially, you know, if you wanted to, let's say, pump out 50,000 words of content for your website, let's just say these are blogs, you know, that might cost you $1, $2 to do that at most. Each version has a slightly different cost. So that's why I can't give an exact number of how much it would cost. But it is insanely cheap. Anyone can sign up for the API. I highly recommend, like, if you have issues with doing product descriptions, you could go on a freelancer site like Upwork, hire a programmer for $300 or something, $500, have them write a program using their API here to write descriptions for you, and you could automate a lot of your description writing. It's really not that hard. There's tons and tons of things you can do. There's tons of other platforms out there that are essentially just throwing a front end onto this API, such as Jasper, if you've ever heard of that tool. It's a blog writing AI tool that's super, super popular, but that's all it's doing. They just built a really good front end on it, and they're just accessing the OpenAI's API to get that information to you. So live demo. So I'll kind of show a couple things. So essentially, one of the things I want to show, this is kind of what the API documentation looks like itself. It gives the developers all the instructions they need to build applications. It's super straightforward. Like I said, I'm no expert, and I've built plenty of tools so far using it. And in here, you can actually see all the different models they have, GPT-4 with the beta, 3.5. There's a whole bunch of other cool stuff in here. So if you give this to a developer, they can, no problem, build out pretty much any tool you want using this. And there's tons and tons of applications for this. Like Anthony mentioned, if you need a tool to help write emails, if you want a tool to write blogs, if you want a tool to write descriptions, anything like that, you could have a developer make something really custom to you rather than having to do things kind of one by one chatting with ChatGPT. So the other thing I did want to show was what ChatGPT looks like. So this is what ChatGPT looks like when you log in. As you can see in the middle, I have ChatGPT Plus, which Anthony mentioned is the paid version. So when you have Plus, it looks pretty much the same as the free version, but the difference is up at the top here where it says model, you can see default GPT 3.5. I actually have the option to toggle and switch to the new version. So as you can see, it even lets you know what are the difference between these two models. You can see when we go up to the default, which is GPT 3.5, you can see the reasoning is much lower, the consciousness is much lower, but the speed is very, very fast. Then we go down to GPT-4, the reasoning is super high, consciousness is much higher, but the speed is much lower, as I mentioned. So there are plenty of things you can do with it, but I mean, just to kind of show you how the different speed and things work, I'll do write me an outline for a blog called what is in Astrocut Diamond. And you can see how fast 3.5 is here. So you can see that took what, 2 seconds, something like that. I'm going to open up a new chat here and show you what it looks like with 4. Let me just copy that same instruction there. It does the same thing. All right, so now we're going to try it with 4. You'll see down at the bottom it says GPT-4 currently has a cap 25 message every 3 hours, like I mentioned earlier. But I'm going to give it that same input. And as you can tell, it's still fast, but it is significantly slower. So it's probably about half the speed of what the 3.5 is, but typically the output is much, much better and much closer to what you're looking for. Other cool things, I'll just go over briefly about this type of stuff. The way ChatGPT does work is as an assistant. So if you don't like something that it came out with, or you need to change the output above, you can always ask it something like, remove the section about, let's grab that one right there. And it'll rewrite it and remove that section you asked it to remove. So it works more as an assistant. That's the best way to think about talking to ChatGPT. Use it as an assistant. Ask it to give you something. You don't like it, ask it to revise it. Best way to use it. But those were kind of the majority of things I wanted to briefly go over. I know Daniel's going to do a lot more live examples for you guys, but I highly suggest that you guys pay the $20 a month for ChatGPT 4, just because it is so much smarter. If you're doing product descriptions, you're doing blog writing, emails, anything like that, it's just going to get a lot better results overall. And if you do want to upgrade, just letting everyone know how to do that. Once you sign up for a free account, you'll see this big bar on the left side. If you click on your name down at the bottom, there'll be a My Plan section and you can upgrade right there. So highly suggest you guys sign up for the paid version if you're going to use it, even just a little bit. It is awesome. And like I said, if you have, let's say, a ton of descriptions or something on your website you need to get done, I highly suggest hiring a developer, because they can build a tool that'll do it really, really fast and automated without you having to actually come in here and ask it each time. They can automate that process and speed it way up.
Kyle, when you're writing a blog or a piece of content, what other types of instructions do you give it? Just like,
I'll show you. So if I'm going to write a blog with it, this is the basic thing that I do. So I will do similar to what I just did. So always the first one I'll do is this chat here, or let me go to 4, where I will say, write me an outline for a blog called, and then give it the blog title. From there, I will ask it after that. I will say, write me a blog post based on the outline above. Let me just stop it real quick here, because I don't want to wait the whole time for it. And it will write the blog based on the content above. And then there are a few other things you can do. So let's say you want to add info about yourself to it. From there, I would either copy and paste in my style guide and say, hey, can you modify this blog to fit to our style guide? Or I'll say, can you change this blog to have information about the store called, jewelry store name, whatever your business name is. Right. And you just kind of give it that, and it'll come in and toss some info about you back in there. So there's lots of cool stuff it can do. Like I said, this version's slower. It still is way faster than I could ever write it. But if you're going to write blogs with it, try to stick to stuff that is kind of evergreen, that's not current. So like cuts, clarity, Honestly, most things related to jewelry haven't changed all that much in the past couple of years. So you can write about majority of things on here. Just try to avoid things that are super, super new. So if, let's say, I don't know, the new world's largest diamond was just found today, if you asked it about that, it wouldn't know anything about it or how to write a blog about that specifically. So try to stick to things that might be in its knowledge base. So anything pre 2020, 2021 and earlier are things to stick to. But yeah, like I said, you can do that here, and then you can say, can you change this blog down for information about the store called GemFind? And you'll see it's already rewriting. But yeah, there's tons and tons of cool stuff you can do. You just got to play around with it and figure out what really works best for you. We did put together, we will share this with you guys at the end, a bunch of prompt ideas. So a bunch of different things you can use ChatGPT for. There are literally unlimited types of things you can use this for, but you can see there's lots of awesome ones in here, like craft a LinkedIn article, brainstorm ideas for a loyalty program or a referral campaign, write an outline for a blog, write an article on gemstone meetings, whole bunch of different stuff we have in here. So we'll share this with you guys at the end. So you can just copy and paste these in and try out them. And again, play around with them. You need to just keep playing around to see what works best for you specifically and what you want that output to be. And as I mentioned before, here's like the little thumbs up and thumbs down, where you can provide feedback of, was that a good one? Was that not a good one? So that you can they can get better at getting rid of some of those, like I said, hallucinations of, where they're really confident in wrong answers. But yeah, I will let Daniel take over from here and kind of share a screen and go over some stuff as well.
Thank you, Kyle. That's awesome. Daniel, I believe you're going to talk about SEO implications.
Yes. And let me show you my screen. And one more time, thank you for joining. Some SEO implications. People right now is concerned about ChatGPT because obviously there's some AI content detectors, right? For example, I just wrote this content, I can write it, I can put it here, and people think that Google is going to block their content because they're using ChatGPT. Well, at this point, Google perspective is if it's good content, if it's quality content, it's good. So, and it's not always the case. For example, I just grabbed something from ChatGPT and it's saying that this is human text, right? So it is still on the borderline of creating content and quality content that can rank. So right now it is working. Google cannot detect it. Why? Because they're even going into this direction. They have their own AI content creator. It's called Barf. They're launching very soon. They're still on development. You can go to their website and get on the waiting list. But anyways, no SEO implications or anything that can affect all this strategy at this point. And then we want to talk about a couple of things. One is Anthony was talking about buyer personas. Now, I already created a prompt here for you guys to see. I asked ChatGPT, please create 5 buyer personas for a jewelry store selling high-end and engagement rings in Dallas. Right? Now, ChatGPT came up with these 5 personas: the traditionalist, the romantic, the modern minimalist, the tech-savvy, and the luxury seeker. Now, some of these might not be related to your business. That's why we are asking this tool to write different. What I did is I grabbed this right here, and we're going to talk about content creation for email sequences. because right now what everyone should be doing is inbound marketing. What is inbound marketing? Well, there's two ways of making sales right now. One is you looking for the customers to buy from you, and inbound marketing is the opposite. And that's what we do. It's creating quality content for the users to find you to satisfy their buying needs. In this case, what user? A luxury seeker user. And this buyer persona is a high net worth individual who's looking for $50,000 engagement rings. So based on this prompt, I grab this information, and then we need to be very, very specific if you want to get the right content. So what I ask ChatGPT with this information, I ask, please create a 3-month marketing sequence, taking the inbound marketing funnel as example. Top of the funnel, the user don't know much about the product. Middle of the funnel, customer is some sort of interested in the product and they have some knowledge. And top of the funnel, the customer want to talk to sales and buy the product. Now I ask again, please create 3 emails per funnel tier for the following persona, and I put the luxury persona. What this thing gave to me, it's a workflow for a marketing email sequence. So it's going to give me 3 emails per funnel. Email 1, discover the world of exotic gemstones, and then the second email, then the third email, and then we can go all the way to the full funnel. Then what about the blogs that we want to send with this information? Well, I went ahead and I asked ChatGPT, please provide top 10 blog topics for engagement rings in 2023, and it gave me the best topics. So what I can do now is write 500 words for write a blog, 500 words following SEO best practices for each topic above. And what this thing is going to do with this data, and it's going to start creating quality content for each one. Well, see, you got to be very, very specific. It started to give me information about SEO. Why? Because it might not be using this information. So what I do is sometimes
that's why, Daniel, if you do it, give it an outline and then just tell it to follow the outline, it'll do it just as it wants. So that's why I typically stick to that. And like I said, if you gave that, Daniel, that same prompt to the GPT-4 version, it probably would have figured it out.
Yeah.
But 3.5 isn't always smart enough to figure it out on its own.
Create a blog for each topic above. Let's see. I remove SEO from the. There you go. Now it's gonna start to create the blogs.
And then you can also tell it to optimize for SEO after the fact.
Correct. And now you will say, yeah, but some of this wording is not up to par with my company. We're more luxury. Yeah, well, at least it is giving you the idea. You need to start from scratch. You just grab the content.
Like Kyle said, you could put in your style guide into it. So if you give it very specific instructions, it'll follow those instructions as good as it possibly can, and especially with ChatGPT 4. So.
And I already created, for example, some of these instructions, like create unique SEO content for a jewelry store named GemFind. This landing page is targeting this keyword engagement rings in Dallas and use SEO best practices. I'm giving orders 1H1 for H2, C6, H3, just for the example, and it's giving me the whole content. Right? So every time marketing and digital marketing is getting more tools to create content, to be on top of the competition, it takes time to master it. But if you don't start taking a look at this right now, your competition will. Believe me, So now we grab this content, we create a landing page following these instructions, and call it a day, right? But now you will say, yeah, this is all only for content. Well, this can go beyond, right? You can give specific like instructions. For example, what I ask in this other prompt, create a 1-month marketing calendar content for a jewelry store based in New York, and use the following social channels: Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Create daily tasks for each social channel. And there you go. Week 1, day 1, share a photo of a celebrity using jewelry. Day 2, do this. And this is for Instagram, right? And then TikTok, day 1, do this. Facebook, they want to do this. And this is going to go all the way week 2, week 3, week 4. And you can go create 12 months of marketing calendar content, right? You don't need to sit down and what do I post today, right? It start to go more deeply.
Especially for like someone that a jewelry store hires, that like, you know, if they hire a, you know, an intern or whatever, and they need some direction, like this could help you give that direction. And also, what I'll pause here for just a minute. You know, if you do have any questions, feel free to type those in the Q&A. We did get one question. This one might be for you, Kyle.
Yeah, I was actually about to answer this if you guys give me a sec. Hey, Daniel, if you want to share, let me share my screen. I'll just pull up an example of a style guide I created with ChatGPT. All right, so you guys should be able to see my screen here. So this is what a style guide would look like. So you'll see it'll be tone and voice, content focus, structure, formatting, vocabulary and phrasing, consistency, calls to action, things not to mention. So what you would do once you have this style guide, I'll go over how you actually make it in just a second. But let's say the output of the blog wasn't exactly what you wanted. You can say, follow this style guide, and you can just copy this in. Rewrite this blog using this style guide. And it will rewrite it. And as you can see, Kyle's Jewelry, because it pulled it from my style guide that I made for Kyle's Jewelries. And it will follow the wording. It will avoid those words I told it not to, such as cheap jewelry, affordable, custom jewelry, budget, frugal, low priced. And, you know, it'll focus on industry specific phrases such as artisan jewelry, handcrafted jewelry, unique jewelry, ethical sourcing, all this type of stuff. You know, emphasize distinctiveness and timelessness of jewelry. And you'll see when you look at the output, it is now going to follow this information. So to actually create the style guide, the best way that I found to do it, first of all, I'm going to use GPT-4, and I will say, write me a writing style guide based on this text, let's say writing example, writing example for Kyle's Jewelry. And what I would do is I would have you give it an example of whatever writing you like the style of, and it'll give you a good outline to start off with. Then you could kind of come back on into here and tweak it to whatever you need. So if it didn't get it perfect based on the example that you gave it, so the way this was created, a client gave us a writing example that they really liked, and I put it into ChatGPT exactly how I did here. Right at the end, that writing example went in there and it generated that, and then we just kind of tweaked it a little bit. Really only a couple sentences were changed. The only things that really weren't there at the out of the original output from ChatGPT was this last section of things not to mention. We added that ourselves. But the rest of this was come up directly from ChatGPT. So again, best way to do it, have a good writing example for it of writing that you like, and give it to ChatGPT to output it, and then make a couple tweaks to where you like it, And then what you want to do from there is test. All this stuff, all marketing is testing, but try, like I said earlier, ask it to write an outline, ask it to write a blog, and then give it that style guide and see how close to the output it gets that you're looking for. If it's right there, then perfect. Leave the style guide as is. Let's say it's, using the word artisanal jewelry too much. Delete that from the style guide, try it again, see how that output looks until you kind of find exactly what you're looking for. But super, super easy with the tool. It does 90% of the writing for you. Like I said, does 90%. You just got to make those little tweaks at the end to make sure it's perfect. But the style guide helps a ton. And you can use this not just for writing blogs, writing emails, writing product descriptions, writing whatever, but the style guide will really help the tool keep your tone of voice and everything on track. So Daniel, I'll kick this back over to you and let you continue sharing there. I just wanted to hop in while we had that question there.
Thank you. Just to answer Erica's question, yes, ChatGPT is most useful for blogs and posting for on the jewelry industry, but you can use it for anything you want. For example, I ask this thing, if you guys are using Edge, I ask, please create a code that will connect my Edge API with a Google spreadsheet, just in case you need to do that. And here's the code. Now you can connect your POS system with a Google spreadsheet. And if you're going to go like more beyond, I ask, please create a facial recognition code that identifies existing customers in my database when they cross the door of my jewelry store. Right? Now it created the code. You can take pictures of your customers, put them in a database and identify when they cross the door, right? So you can use it for anything you want. But in this case, we're creating content to bring users looking for engagement rings, jewelry. We want your sales to get up. But if your question was, can I use it for something else? Yes, you can.
Yes.
Just to chime in, asking about what it's most useful for, it can also do programming. It can do almost anything you want. Essentially, it acts as an assistant and it has knowledge across all industries. It's not just blogging. It's not just emails. You could add it, even ask it questions about, I don't know, financial stuff or your CRM or anything like that. But again, keep in mind, most of the data is up to 2021. So anything super new, it might have issues.
To answer your other question, Erica, it is not connected to your PC. It is a website right now. It is just another website, like going to Google. But you can you can ask ChatGPT to create a code to connect ChatGPT with your website and your PC if that was what you want, right? But at the end of the day, it's just a website.
Yeah. And Danielle asked, will it generate captions and hashtags for better SEO on social profiles?
It will, if you give the right direction, as Kyle was mentioning. Just create the persona and the type of user you want to create that content, and ChatGPT is going to use those styles and guidelines using SEO best practices for your social channels.
As I mentioned before, the best way to think about it is an assistant. If you have a real life assistant, you still need to give them some sort of direction, but once they have that correct direction, it's good to go. So make those style guides, make those buying personas. If you want the outputs to be closer to what your business is looking for, you can just give it none of those and it'll still be pretty good. A lot of it's pretty good, especially with the GPT-4, but you'll get much, much closer the first time around if you just have those in place before asking the questions.
Okay, now to answer Rachel's question.
I think Braden was first. Let's go ahead and answer Braden.
Was creating the code through GPT-4. I use 3.5. I'm assuming ChatGPT-4 is gonna have like a better coding learning, so
it does. I've played around with both, and the GPT-4 when it's outputting code, the code I use is Python. That's just because that's the language that I know, but it is much, much better on 4 than it is the 3.5. So if you are going to try to write stuff with code, or give it to your developer or whatever it is, 4 is way better. But
But
it'll
you
even
can
give it
also
to you
keep
like Daniel's
asking
showing. It'll
this,
give it to you like
optimize the
Daniel's
code
showing
above,
there.
and it's going to look for ways to optimize this code and make it better. So it's a little bit of a back and forth because at the end you keep asking, you might get what you're looking for. It's the way you ask. And now the following is to Rachel for the Azure Cut blog. It will not create the same outline. It will paraphrase it, but it is unique content every time. That's what makes it amazing.
Yeah, like you can ask it to regenerate the response if you didn't like the
Yes.
response. So,
Yeah, so it will always be unique content. It doesn't have the same answers every single time. But again, we always suggest to just add your own flair and do a little bit of editing. Again, best way to think about it, gets you 80, 90% of the way there. You add your human touch to it and you're good to go.
Yes. And any bad points? Yes. Don't throw personal information here, because if you throw personal information here, now it's going to be available in the database. Okay.
yeah.
That
And if
happened a
it,
couple of weeks ago to, I don't know if it was Instagram, Facebook, someone in a big corporation. They were trying to clean a code. Now the code is available online. Okay. So just be careful what you throw in there.
and also
Yeah,
it's AI. So if anyone's paranoid about AI, that's I guess one thing to be concerned about. I'm not very concerned about it, but it's Elon Musk creating this. So
And the other bad point that I mentioned earlier during my slides are the hallucinations, that it'll sometimes be very confident in wrong answers. So just watch out for that. Like I said, double check information if you're looking for very factual stuff. It is pretty good and you'll be surprised of how good it is, but there can be times, and I've seen it, where I'm asking it questions and I'm like, this is obviously wrong. So just watch out for that stuff.
Yes.
Hiten mentioned you still need to be updated about what you are doing in any field, and you need to give that knowledge or data to GPT to work for you. Exactly.
Correct.
Correct. Braden asked, what it was an effective prompt to have written, I believe.
We have a few prompts here for you guys. We're going to share them. So these are some prompts. You can subscribe and get and download this file. But these are some prompts we already came up with you with different.
We can email this to everyone, or you can request it from us if you want it, and we can email it to you. You can email me, Anthony at GemFind.com. I'll put my email in here to if anyone wants a copy of this, we can go ahead and email it over. So I went and put that in the chat to everybody, Anthony at GemFind.com there. Angela asks, is it good for capturing top search SEO keywords that will work in 2023? Not at the moment, if I'm not mistaken, Kyle, because it only goes up to 2021 right now.
Exactly. That is the issue. And that's always going to be its limitation at the moment, is that because it's not connected to the internet, as I mentioned earlier, and that the database is only up to 2021, it'll give you ideas. Again, it's not going to be perfect, but it'll give you some ideas on keywords and things like that. I mean, Daniel just typed in here, top 10 SEO keywords for a jewelry store. And you know what? Those are some of the terms that we typically see through tools like SEMrush or, Google Keyword Planner, that are typically in some of the most viewed. So it's close. Like, I typically don't see luxury jewelry or fashion jewelry in the top 10. Like, we'll typically see lab grown diamonds or loose diamonds there instead, but those are still relevant keywords to an extent.
Right. So yeah, it's most likely, again, it's pulling information from the internet from 2021, which still, a lot of the information is still relevant. So yeah, we can open it up for more questions. If anyone has any questions, feel free to type them in the Q&A. We'll be happy to answer them for you. Do you have anything else to review, Daniel? Or
That's it.
yeah, anyone feel free to type in questions either in the chat or the Q&A, and we'd be happy to answer any additional questions for you. Here. Just gonna pull up our info just in case.
For sharing the style guide, we can do that. I can give it to Anthony to kind of give to you guys along with the prompts as well, if that's something you're looking for.
Yeah, so feel free to just email me if you'd like a copy of any of this information we reviewed today. I'd be happy to share the slides with you, or again, those prompts I think could be super helpful. Feel free to email me, Anthony@gemfind.com, and we'll get and send
We got
those
a
over.
couple in here I'll answer as well. So do you use any Chrome extension to make GPT pull live data? So no, there's not like a Chrome extension to do that, but you can actually go onto your Edge browser. I believe is the one, Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong, and then go to Bing, and it's actually implemented through Bing through the Edge browser. That's Microsoft's way of trying to get people to use Bing. So you can kind of do it through there. What I've seen people use that for is they'll go to a website and they'll go to the kind of like, I guess it's Edge extension, I guess is what you'd call it. And it'll ask it summarize this page into bullet points for me. Just things like that. Nothing really all that crazy there. Let's see, are there any other ones in here?
What is the cost of a consultation? Madison asks. There's no cost for any consultation. You can reach out to me here, Anthony@gemfind.com, and we can get you connected with the right person or myself potentially. But yeah, there's no cost for a consultation. Be happy to chat with you anytime. ZS, fantastic info. Thank you for emailing the spreadsheet and style guide. No problem. 10 said, I know Edge, but GPT-4 is way better. It's true. Madison asked, and where can we find your resources? Yeah, just our website is gemfind.com. So there's a lot of information on there. If you have any questions about what we do.
We have a landing page. I'm going to share it here with our past webinars. You can go there. You can see our trainings and webinars we've done on the past.
Daniel, you just shared that to our personal chat. I will just answer that question there of the resources for it.
Yeah, please.
I believe our next webinar, when Daniel's going to be joining as well, will be about GA4, which it will be at the end of May. I also have one for the Edge coming up soon, which will be the second Thursday of every month. When we host those webinars.